There exists a theater of human interaction where every gesture, every word, every silence is a performance. And you, watching this, have felt it, haven't you? That gnawing suspicion that beneath the surface of romantic connection lies a machinery far more ancient, far more calculating than the fairy tale ever prepared you for. We are told that understanding another person is an act of empathy, of compassion, of love. But what if I told you that understanding is also an act of survival? The ancient Greeks had a word, metis, the cunning intelligence of recognizing patterns others cannot see. The ability to perceive what is hidden beneath the performance. Today we descend into the shadow realm of human psychology, not to manipulate, not to exploit, but to see clearly what evolution has encrypted in the very architecture of desire, attachment, and power. By the end of this, you will understand why that conversation felt like a trap. Why affection sometimes feels conditional. Why the rules seem to shift without warning. But here is the question that will haunt us until the final moments of this exploration. What happens when both sides understand the game being played? Stay with me. We are told by movies, by songs, by the cultural narrative, that women are emotional creatures seeking emotional connection, that they desire transparency, vulnerability, honesty. And there is truth in this. But the truth is far darker, far more layered than this comfortable simplification, because evolution does not care about your comfort. Evolution cares about survival, and the mechanisms that ensured survival 50,000 years ago are still encoded in the neural pathways of every human brain walking this earth. Women, like men, are not monolithic. They are not simple. They are biological organisms responding to evolutionary imperatives that often contradict the stories we tell ourselves about love. And within these imperatives lie patterns that, when understood, reveal not weaknesses in the moral sense but pressure points in the psychological sense. Vulnerabilities that exist not because women are inferior, but because they are human. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the aspects of our psyche hidden from conscious awareness. What we're about to explore are the shadows within the architecture of female psychology, not to condemn, but to illuminate. Because only through understanding can we navigate the complexity of human connection with wisdom rather than resentment. To understand these patterns, we must first journey backward, not years, but millennia. Imagine a woman in the ancestral environment. No cities, no safety nets, no institutions. Survival depended entirely on the strength of social bonds and the protection of capable partners. For ancestral women, choosing poorly meant death. For their offspring, it meant extinction. So evolution sculpted a psychological system exquisitely sensitive to certain signals, status, resources, social proof, emotional stability, competence under pressure. But here is the paradox that defines so much of modern confusion. These systems were calibrated for a world that no longer exists. The triggers remain. The responses remain. But the environment has transformed beyond recognition, and so we find ourselves in a strange landscape where ancient machinery runs on modern fuel, creating outcomes that feel irrational, contradictory, even cruel. This is not a moral failing. This is the consequence of being a biological organism navigating a reality your ancestors never imagined. The Jungian archetypes, the anima, the lover, the mother. These are not metaphors. They are cognitive templates hardwired through evolutionary time, and within these templates lie the patterns we now explore. 6 hidden pressure points, 6 vulnerabilities encrypted in the architecture of desire. Let us descend. The first hidden weakness, an insatiable hunger for external validation. Watch closely. Notice how quickly a woman's mood can shift based on social feedback. A compliment from the right person. A photograph that receives approval. A public acknowledgement of status. This is not vanity, or rather, it is not merely vanity. This is the manifestation of an evolutionary mechanism that equated social standing with survival. In ancestral tribes, a woman's value was determined by her position within the social hierarchy. To be rejected by the group was to face potential death. To be celebrated was to secure protection, resources, access to the best mates. And so natural selection favored those women whose nervous systems became exquisitely attuned to social feedback. The modern consequence? An almost compulsive need for validation that can override logic, self-respect, even declared values. Here is what this means in practical terms. A woman can claim to value privacy, yet find herself unable to resist the dopamine rush of social media approval. She can declare independence from others' opinions, yet feel visceral distress when those opinions turn negative. She can intellectually understand that external validation is hollow, yet remain psychologically enslaved to its pursuit. This is the weakness, the inability to generate self-worth internally. The man who understands this possesses a profound form of power, not the power to manipulate, but the power to choose differently. Because if you become the source of validation she craves, you become indispensable. But if you withhold that validation carelessly, you become the architect of unnecessary suffering. The Stoic path is neither to exploit nor to indulge, but to recognize the pattern and choose conscious engagement, to offer genuine appreciation without creating dependency, to refuse to become the supplier for an addiction you did not create. The second hidden weakness, the tyranny of emotional states. Women are not more emotional than men. This is a misconception. But women's decision-making is more frequently overridden by emotional states. The neuroscience is clear. Female brains show greater connectivity between the amygdala, the emotion center, and the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning center. This creates a cognitive architecture where feelings and thoughts are more deeply intertwined, more difficult to separate. In practice, this means that a woman's perception of reality can shift dramatically based on her emotional state in the moment. Yesterday, she loved you. Today, after an argument, it's as if the love never existed. Not because the love was false, but because the emotional state has rewritten the narrative. This is the mechanism behind seemingly irrational behavior, the sudden coldness after intimacy, the reinterpretation of your entire relationship history through the lens of a single conflict, the inability to maintain a stable perspective across fluctuating moods. Men experience this as chaos, as unpredictability, as betrayal, but it is not betrayal. But it is not betrayal. It is biology. The ancestral environment rewarded rapid emotional recalibration. A woman needed to quickly reassess threats, opportunities, social dynamics. Emotional fluidity was survival. But in the modern context, this same fluidity becomes a source of relational instability. The weakness is this: susceptibility to emotional flooding that temporarily erases contrary evidence. The man who understands this learns a profound skill: emotional constancy in the face of emotional chaos. You become the anchor, not by arguing, not by defending, but by holding frame, maintaining your perspective even when hers shifts. This is not coldness, this is stability. Because someone in the relationship must remember the truth when emotion has clouded it. The third hidden weakness, the irrationality of preselection. Here is an uncomfortable truth that every man has witnessed but few understand. A woman's attraction to you increases when other women find you attractive. This is not accidental, this is strategic. In evolutionary terms, mate selection was a high-stakes game with devastating consequences for error. But how could an ancestral woman evaluate a man's quality in an environment with limited information? Simple. She outsourced the evaluation to other women. If other females who share her biological imperatives have vetted and approved this male, he must possess qualities worth having. This is preselection. This is free selection. This is social proof. This is the herd mentality of desire, and it creates the maddening dynamic where a man can spend years being ignored, then suddenly become desired the moment he enters a relationship. A woman can lose attraction to a partner who becomes too available, too eager, too focused solely on her. The presence of female attention, real or perceived, acts as an aphrodisiac, more potent than any direct demonstration of value. The weakness is this: an inability to assess value independently of social proof. This is why the nice guy fails, not because kindness is unattractive, but because exclusive focus signals absence of options, and absence of options signals low value. The cruel paradox: the more you make her your only focus, the less valuable you appear. The Stoic understanding? You must build a life so compelling that her presence enhances it, but her absence does not destroy it. You must be desired by life itself, pursuing mastery, creating value, commanding respect, such that female attention becomes a byproduct rather than a goal. When you stop seeking validation from her, she begins seeking it from you, not because manipulation, but because the ancient machinery recognizes this one has options. The fourth hidden weakness, the unconscious administration of stress tests. Have you ever noticed that women seem to create problems where none exist? That conflicts arise over seemingly trivial matters? That there is a pattern of escalation, testing, pushing boundaries? This is not malice. This is evaluation. In the ancestral environment, a woman needed to know, can this man handle pressure? Because when the tribe is attacked, When resources disappear, when danger emerges, will he collapse or will he lead? Emotional composure under stress was a reliable indicator of competence. And so evolution created a mechanism. The shit test, an unconscious behavioral pattern where women create small-scale chaos to observe your response. Do you become defensive? Do you seek her approval? Do you collapse into supplication? Or do you remain calm, unmoved, amused even by the performance? The weakness is this: an unconscious compulsion to test your frame, your boundaries, your emotional stability. She doesn't consciously want to test you, but the biological imperative runs deeper than conscious desire. And here's the truly fascinating element: when you fail these tests, when you react emotionally, when you seek reassurance, when you defend yourself desperately, her attraction decreases. Not because she's cruel, but because the ancient machinery has received the answer it sought. This one cannot handle pressure. The man who understands this learns the most valuable skill in all of human interaction: unshakable composure. You do not argue. You do not defend. You do not react. You observe. You understand. And you respond from a place of centered authority. I hear that you're upset. When you're ready to discuss this calmly, I'm here. And then you leave the emotional space. Not punishment, not withdrawal of love, but refusal to participate in chaos. This is mastery. The fifth hidden weakness: the relentless upward gaze. Hypergamy. The biological inclination to seek the higher status mate available. This is perhaps the most controversial pattern we will discuss, and the most misunderstood. Men are often attracted to youth, beauty, fertility markers. Women are attracted to status, competence, resources, social dominance. But here's the critical distinction. Male attraction tends toward constancy. Female attraction tends toward comparison. A man can remain attracted to the same woman across decades if her fundamental qualities persist. A woman's attraction is more vulnerable to relative status assessment. If you stop growing, stop achieving, stop demonstrating competence while other men around her continue ascending, her attraction does not merely plateau, it can reverse. Not because she's shallow, but because the biological machinery is calibrated to continually assess: is this still the best genetic and provisioning investment for my offspring? In the modern world, this manifests as the girlfriend who leaves when your career stalls, the wife who grows distant as you become comfortable, complacent, the partner who suddenly finds flaws she previously ignored, coinciding precisely with your loss of status or her gain of options. The weakness is this: attraction that is contingent on continuous demonstration of value. This is why letting yourself go is catastrophic. This is why comfort is dangerous. This is why the marriage advice, just be yourself, is incomplete, because yourself must be a continually evolving, growing, dominant version. The Stoic response: never stop becoming. Understand that her attraction is not unconditional, that it requires continuous feeding through demonstration of competence, status, growth. This is not her moral failing. This is her biological reality. And your choice is simple: resent this reality and fail, or accept this reality and the backed. The master understands. She is not attracted to who you were, she is attracted to who you are becoming. The sixth hidden weakness: the unconscious craving for masculine authority. We arrive now at the most politically dangerous truth of all. In the modern discourse, we speak of equality, of partnership, of mutual respect, and these are noble ideals, essential ideals. But beneath the ideals lies a biological substrate that does not care about ideology. Study after study reveals the same uncomfortable pattern. Women report desiring equality in relationships, yet women's arousal patterns respond most powerfully to displays of dominance, not cruelty, not abuse, but authority. The man who leads, but authority. The man who leads, who decides, who takes responsibility without seeking permission. The feminist will protest this claim, and intellectually, consciously, she is correct to do so. But the body does not read political theory. The body responds to ancient signals. Watch what happens when a man becomes too accommodating, too democratic, too eager to please. Attraction dies. Not because democracy is wrong, but because the biological machinery interprets excessive accommodation as weakness. The weakness is this: a disconnect between conscious ideology and unconscious desire. She wants you to respect her opinions. She wants you to value her input, but she also wants you to be capable of decisive action when action is required. She wants equality in partnership, but she wants masculine polarity in attraction. The man who cannot navigate this paradox will fail. He will either become a tyrant mistaking dominance for cruelty, or a supplicant mistaking respect for submission. The Stoic path is razor-thin. Benevolent leadership. You listen. You consider. You value her perspective. But when decision is required, you decide. You own the outcome. You take responsibility. You do not seek her permission to lead. You do not apologize for competence. This is not disrespect. This is polarity. Because attraction does not emerge from sameness. It emerges from complementary difference. And so we return to the question posed at the beginning. What happens when both sides understand the game being played? The answer is not manipulation. The answer is not exploitation. The answer is not exploitation. The answer is transcendence. When you understand these patterns, these vulnerabilities, these ancient mechanisms, you gain a choice unavailable to the unconscious. You can choose compassion. Because these are not weaknesses to exploit. They are simply the architecture of being human. Women do not choose to be wired for validation, emotional fluidity, preselection, testing, hypergamy, dominance. Just as you did not choose to be wired for visual attraction, novelty-seeking, status competition. We are all prisoners of biology, but awareness creates the possibility of freedom. The Stoic master does not weaponize understanding. He integrates it. He offers validation without creating dependency. He provides emotional stability without demanding constancy. He demonstrates value without needing preselection. He passes tests without resentment. He continues growing without requiring her approval. He leads without dominating. This is the path, not because it guarantees success in every relationship. Nothing can guarantee that, but because it transforms you into a man operating from choice rather than confusion, from understanding rather than resentment, from mastery rather than reactivity. The theater of human interaction will continue. The performances will continue. The ancient machinery will continue running its protocols. But you now see the stage for what it is. Not a conspiracy, not a trap, not a moral failure. Simply biology playing out its imperatives in a world it was never designed for. And in that understanding lies the only true power, the power to choose your response. The machinery cannot be unplugged, but it can be understood, and understanding is the first step toward wisdom. The choice, as always, is yours.